I like this part of this song. Hello, comic peoples. Welcome to another week of new comics and comic commentary from me, your hopefully friend Carlz, who practices his English by talking about not what, one of the things he loves the most, comic books. So, this week I have a couple of, not news, but it's something interesting that I wanted to do at the beginning. So I talked. I don't know if it was last week or the last week. We're talking about Avengers and the upcoming 800, right? Legacy 800, and now they have finally begun the, how can you call it, promotional campaign. They are finally rolling out the Avengers carpet for in preparation for the 800, announcing the end of Jen McKay's run. And well, there are some rumors surrounding Avengers 800. I also commented a couple of weeks ago that Brian Michael Bendis, the creator of Miles Morales, among other things, and Jessica Jones, was coming back to Marvel. Well, that was a big sort of deal because he's kind of like an A-lister in the comic world, even though I have said before, personally, I'm not his biggest fan. But there's a strong rumor that he might be taking over Avengers after 800. And that would be interesting because whether or not you like Bendis' writing, as I said, he is a really high profile writer. So who knows? But the other big news that came with the Avengers 800, they are making an interconnected cover, another collector thing. But anyways, they said that every Avenger ever appears on it, and I was highly curious. So they released the promotional image, and it's going up right now. Boom! And I'm like doing the exercise, and like all of these dudes who were Avengers, I just saw it briefly. I don't know if I know all of them. Would it be fun of me just naming everyone? Like I know I don't think you can see my cursor, but like at least the front row is easily recognizable. But the back row, like up, like, is that fucking Cable? I don't know why they also separated the Fantastic Four. They have Johnny Blaze and Ben Ben Blaze down here. I mean up here, and they have here. They have like on the opposite side. They have Sue and Reed. They have the Doombot. Is this Doombot because of Young Avengers? Firestar. Like here, there's a bunch of guys in the back, in between the Red Hulks that I think I have no idea who these people are. Like if you have Night Thrasher, like yeah, he's kind of like an not that famous Night Thrasher, whatever, right? But like, yeah, it was funny. It was funny. Like they say, this is every character that has ever been an Avenger. Okay, if you say so, right? Plus they have Jarvis in it. I don't know if Jarvis was ever an Avenger. Who knows? But anyways, that was the big Avengers news. It's kind of like not weird, but like kind of like weird that they didn't choose to put in the front like the founders. Like you have Iron Man here, like the Hulk is around here, Thor is a little bit more around here. Like was the Black Widow part of the original ones? I don't remember. But here you have like Doctor Strange. You have Wolverine doing like a rap pose. It looks so funny. Hercules, and they have Robbie Reyes. Nice. But anyways, that's a curious thing to say the least. And a cover, or like a bunch of covers, a series of covers that you are 100% sure that what, from here to 5 years, it's gonna cost a bunch of money. It's funny. Let's hope. I mean, let's not hope. Like I don't. I honestly don't care if Bendis takes over Avengers. Nah, I really don't. The other small piece of news that I wanted to talk about, and let's start bringing this back to normal, regular size, please. They announced a new Dark Souls comic book, and man, as someone who loves Souls games, I wanna take this opportunity to just say I've never got into Dark Souls books. I don't know. I don't know. They seem to do good. They seem to be like fairly popular, but the ones I've read, I've sort of just browsed through them. It's like okay, and then releasing a new Dark Souls comic book sort of make me think that I don't care that much for these other stories. Like, even though they might include references to characters or places that are not dear to me, but like at least you like from the games, I I can't get into Dark Souls books. I don't know why. Might be one of those situations where you go like, okay, if I'm not playing this, I sort of don't care. You know what I mean? Like, yeah, if I'm not playing, I'm not buying. That's sort of like the idea that I got from it. So I'm not really that much using this as a news, but like as an opportunity to talk shit a little bit of Dark Souls comic books. Sorry, that's how it goes. But anyways, that's for the news. Let's go straight into this week's recommendations. The first one is, well, Dynamite has been doing a lot of this Disney villain type of. This a series? It is a series, and I think they have been like not properly appreciated, if you ask me. Like I read the what other one? Like I read the Scar one, I think, and I think there was a Hades one. They're not that impactful, but they are pretty entertaining. And the point about them releasing this new volume with Maleficent in it is, and you guessed it, the Snow White live action movie. I know Maleficent is from another franchise, but I feel like they need to redo this whole evil kind of like, how can you say it? The evil justification. I haven't seen the movies, the Maleficent movies either. But like after the whole concept of the bad guys being more, not, I don't know, like human or realistic, I think the movies are so impactful and they are so famous that people get just that idea. But I think they have done a great job in the comic books. I don't know, I wish they made a little bit more effort of telling people, okay, we're gonna do a story about the bad guys. In fact, we're gonna do a whole series of books on the bad guys, which are actually entertaining, actually interesting, actually well written. Instead of like just seeing whatever you see in the movies and leaving people with this like strange bad taste of how bad guys can be more humanized or made more complex. You know? I don't know the author, Paulina Ganucciao, but apparently she has quite a following. And, well, what do you want me to say? I just want people to read these books for the real value they have. I don't know. As I said, none of them to me have been like a huge big deal in the sense that I know I talk about this book a lot, but in the sense that the Darth Vader comic book was. None of them, of these Disney villains one, have been like that. But hey, this one is getting a lot of hype, and I'm definitely gonna try to check it out. Next, in another I don't know. Surprise is the thing, but like a couple of weeks ago, I was doing my Halloween marathon, um, and I watched Sleepy Hollow, Tim Burton's Sleepy Hollow, which I haven't seen in a long time. And lo and behold, I have no idea that IDW is releasing a sequel. It's straight up a sequel to the movie Sleepy Hollow. It's not even a sequel to the book, which I haven't read, and which I don't know if it has a sequel or not. But this is a sequel to the Tim Burton movie, which is quite great. Uh, I really liked it. My only issue with Tim Burton's Sleepy Hollow, I think Ichabod Crane's character is a little bit too cartoonish. You know, it sort of works in the context of the movie, but in general, that's not my image of Ichabod Crane. It has never been. Like, he's a little bit too goofy, a little bit too like dorky. But anyways, apparently Ichabod Crane is coming back to Sleepy Hollow to solve another set of mysteries, like another set of unexplainable murders, which is extremely strange, because the whole point of Sleepy Hollow, the movie, was him resolving the big thing about the headless, what's his name, Ryder. But like, it was all about that case, and that case ends on the movie. So can you make a Sleepy Hollow ongoing book forever and just having Ichabod Crane resolving crimes? Doesn't sound that bad. to be honest with you, it doesn't sound that bad. Like, I haven't read much about the author, but I did happen to read Buffy the Last Vampire Slayer from what's his name? Casey Gilly. I did read Buffy the Vampire Slayer, and even though I'm not the biggest Buffy buff, I thought it was pretty fun. Because the main thing they did with Buffy the Vampire Slayer was to take the character of Buffy and make her into this really like grumpy grandma, which for some reason I thought it was so amusing, considering the whole thing with Buffy back in the day. Should I watch Buffy? I think I saw that the Buffy movie like once, maybe. It was. I thought it was alright. But yeah, Return to Sleepy Hollow by IDW. Pretty interesting. The art looks fine, and I did like the movie. I don't think they're gonna have like fucking Christopher Walken in the comic book, but well. Next. I've talked about this book a couple of times, but now it's the chance of recommending it. James Tynion, the fourth version of Dracula, as part of the Image Comics Universal Monster series, is being relaunched in black and white, and looks amazing. I love the Tynion's Dracula because it was like the nod that it had to the original book, that it was told from the perspective of people that were not, I mean, they were directly related to the story, but it's like people telling the story. Like if you have read Bram Stoker's Dracula, that's sort of how it's written, right? Sort of like, how do you call that? I like a character's witness account or something. So it's people that experience that like in a second hand sort of way. They experienced it and then they tell you the story. But the thing with Dracula, which is basically, if I remember correctly, I think it was from Renfield's point of view, or like a Renfield type of character. And the whole thing with that is that it adds a lot of magic and mysticism to the story of Dracula. The art was amazing. Like everything about it was amazing. So if someone didn't have the chance of getting it the first time, I think there's no better time than now. It has some awesome incentive covers as well. Like, I don't have time to show them all, but like, if I were a money person, I would get them all. It's amazing. Hell, Dracula, Image Comics, James Tynion, Moneymaker next. This is another one of those updates. I keep changing the name of my own sections, but we go back to see what has been going on with the relaunch of Ghost Spider. The first couple of issues of this all new Spider-Gwen Ghost Spider, what a name, right? It's a little bit uh, all over the place. But anyways, this is issue number 3, and in the first 2 issues, they try to set up a little bit of what her life would be now in 616. Like, something that I found really odd is that they didn't completely sort of recognize the role of the dad. Uh, I'm not that sure that the original 616 dad is still alive. I don't know. So I'm sort of like a little bit confused. Not enough to make me stop reading it or anything, but I'm still like with an eyebrow raising, like the Rock, like I'm eyebrow raising, like where is this guy? But anyways, the main story now in issue 3 is being revealed, and the first antagonist or enemy for Gwen is gonna be her own symbiote. So if we remember before this volume, well, way before, she lost her natural powers, so she was using a symbiote, and now that she has her regular powers back, her symbiote is coming back as an sort of like a enemy type, like a venom type. So there's like a bunch of things to think about it. Like the obvious one, and the one that has been making the rounds on the internet, is that people are sort of like pissed that they are like kind of like, I said like 1,000 times, right? They are sort of reusing the original Peter Parker story, but with Gwen. I don't know if this symbiote is gonna become Venom or if it's gonna have traits from Gwen's original universe. You know, but I think that that is not the important thing. The important thing is not the nemesis, who I think is called Tantrum. According to the press release, I think it's called Tantrum, which is already funny enough. To me, that is not the most important thing, but to me, the most important thing that they have done in these first 3 issues of all new Spider-Gwen Ghost Spider is that they have thrown her into the deep end, like 2 issues, and there already have been murders, and it's like, you know, when you always say, I mean, or at least I always say, for Spider-Man, you have like the Spider-Man sort of way of telling a story where he's up, then he's down, has a like a conflict, and he defeats that. They did like the fast route. They sped it up for when, and they are like throwing you into the deep end. I don't know if that's necessarily a good thing, but it seems like a bunch of things are gonna happen to her quick. So that's a good, I don't know, way of putting you into like a really sensitive place, like you feel for the character. And I don't know. Basically, if you are reading Spider-Man by now, you're already in love with the character. So seeing her in a more personal and oppressive situation instead of just gallivanting around saving multi-universe, I hope it gets more personal, and I hope this leads to this Gwen sort of taking a place of Gwen Stacy in 616, and that's the main point that they have been avoiding. They have been avoiding making her into a Gwen Stacy, but they did brought her into 616, and she is Gwen Stacy. You see my point? But anyways, all new Spider-Man the Ghost Spider number 3, with the introduction of Tantrum, the Gwen's own personal evil symbiote. It's a high likeness that it will turn into another Venom, like if we need another one, right? But anyway, next. In this week recommendation for the Age of Revelation, this title caught my attention really soon when they released all of the titles for the Age of Revelation. So this one is not Cloak and Dagger, it's Cloak or Dagger. In the story of Cloak or Dagger, they are married in the future, in the Age of Revelation, of course, and they can't both exist at the same time. And why is this so curious and why is this so interesting? Because in the press release, they mentioned them as breakout characters from Marvel Rivals. And I was like, hold on a minute. So in the story, they can't both exist at the same time. That's why it's called Cloak or Dagger. And that is what happens in the game. I don't know. It's funny. It's funny. I think we can see the influence of Rivals, and I think in the case of Marvel, in particular, they seems to be way more influenced by things that happen outside from the comics, and they brought those things into the comics than DC does. You know, I feel like Marvel will bring anything popular from outside of the comic books into the spotlight. It happened with Jeff, the Lion Shark. I don't know, like whatever movie's going on, they always do it. And as I said, it's not like the thing that got me excited about this book is that it's the breakout characters from Marvel Rivals. I haven't used them since like season 1 or something. They're pretty cool. But anyways, it made me think about the last time I saw Cloak and Dagger, and in a really like main sort of stage, or like in a really important place, which for me the last time was the series, the short-lived Cloak and Dagger series, which I thought it was pretty okay. It wasn't awesome, but it was sort of the core of these characters, which were like two really lowly people who found themselves in a way that they connected in a manner that is not normal. It's way stronger. So if you put the dark dimension in between, it sort of worked for me. Since then, it has been like what? Like 5 years or something already since? No, maybe even more since that series was a thing. Wow. But anyways, if Rivals is gonna bring back Cloak and Dagger into the comic books and into good news stories, well, thank you, Rivals. You're welcome. I mean, no, thank you, Rivals. Rivals just said you're welcome, right? So Cloak and Dagger, part of the Age of Revelation event this week. Next. This is another update. We're already in issue 3 of G. Willow Wilson's Black Cat run, and I gotta say, it's been great as well. I've been really liking what they are doing with the character, because the whole point, or like the main plot point of this Black Cat run is that she is trying to become a hero. And somehow what they have done is that put her in this situation where not only she becomes a hero, but she's being recognized a hero by the bad guys. Which is no small thing, because she was a bad guy. So they are starting creating this ambience, this context for her to become a hero, where everybody's into their own thoughts. Like nothing major has happened yet, but they have written the thought process of bad guys and good guys changing and interacting with each other. So you can actually see Felicia like going through her thoughts, and in a really nonchalant, you could say, or like a really casual way. She's being so open and free about it, and I love that characterization of the character. Like some sort of like free swinging black cat spirit. She's okay, I'm gonna do this, and she has a lot of energy. So I really like it. I really like how she has been writing Felicia, and you could call it a slow build, of the story, but it's getting there. I always use the metaphor of chess, and you can see the pieces already moving. And while the pieces move, they think aloud because these are comic books, right? So you can see what they're thinking and the thought process they're going through, their changes. I know, I've been loving it. So Black Cat number 3, that's a little update this week. Next. I love to doing disclaimers. Here's another one. I've never cared for Silver Surfer. Never have. I picked up this series by Greg Pak and Sumit Kumar, The Death of the Silver Surfer, mostly because of the title. Even though all of us that read comics, we know that the concept of dying in comic books is like, who fucking cares, right? Everybody dies at every time. And I wanted to know why he was dying. Turns out the whole point of him, or like the most important thing about the book, was not the fact that he was dying, but that he was being replaced. And we're already getting the classic dumbass internet backlash about this new Silver Surfer being a woman. She's not the one from Fantastic Four First Steps, by the way. But surprisingly enough, the story has been really interesting. This is a SHIELD agent who has a lot of baggage, a lot of issues. She has a lot of issues with aliens, with superheroes. It's a really conflicted character. And even though I don't like Silver Surfer, that's sort of like the base of the character. It's conflicted nature of being the herald of Galactus, trying to be a good guy and a bad guy. And personally, I think Silver Surfer is one of those characters that always get rebounded around, and like he bounces around stuff. Like he had this book that was like a mystical one. It had like, I don't know if it was Strathmore or if it had Strathmore like art style, but it was like psychedelic and shit. And yeah, the Silver Surfer is like one of these characters that are supposed to be important, but to me they're really easy to forget. But in this new Death of the Silver Surfer, I'm not saying that they're gonna make this new Silver Surfer important or anything. It just have been fun because they have created a whole book dedicated to creating the personality and character traits of a character. So she's become the Silver Surfer, and we already know. This is like a really cool origin story for a character that overall is like, meh. So I would recommend this for everyone that thinks that Silver Surfer is just a mere character. Perhaps they got some sort of interest from Fantastic Four First Steps, and this is a great opportunity to jump into the character and read something new from her now, right? As I said, I don't think this means that the character is going to be important or anything, but it's a great jumping point. And this is another example that we've seen from Marvel using the publicity, the hype, the influence of the movie to talk more about a character that, like, under the great scheme of things, is not that important. Perhaps he has never been. So it's a welcome sort of like soft reboot. So it's only issue 5. Give it some. And Greg Pak, he's alright. Next. Man, I really wanted to love the last Halloween. I really wanted to. The Long Halloween is one of the classic Batman stories that has all of the like most of the great Batman stories, they always have a bunch of the bad guys in it. It's sort of like the scheme. And one of the characteristics of the original Long Halloween was that, like, the Batman's own investigation made him go through so many of the rogues gallery, and every issue seemed to be a clue. Okay, what could have this guy has done for this? You know, so you would go from character to character, having some vibe from them that is completely related to who they are. Then it would lead you to something else. It was entertaining. It was like a true detective sort of vibe. But that didn't happen to me with the last Halloween. Who am I to criticize Jeff Lowe? You know? Well, Mateo Scalera, he is awesome, but the artist. But it just didn't do it for me. And this week is the last issue of the long Halloween. I mean, the last Halloween. And it hasn't done it really for me for just one big sort of like issue that as I said, who am I to criticize? But I thought it feels way too much like the previous one. Sorry, I just felt that it was too much like the previous one. You know? It just didn't do it for me. And it's so, I don't know, annoying to think about it, because who am I to think those things? But anyways, apparently this is the last big cover also from the now late Team Sally? You know, like the classic illustrator. I think he did the original one, right? Yeah, I'm not wrong. But anyways, I wanted to quickly mention this long Halloween. I mean, this last Halloween, just as I guess a way for me for venting my lack of passion with it. Or like, it's not that I hated it, but it just wasn't as good as the first one. Huh. But anyways, this is a book that is gonna be trade in every bookshelf of Batman's fans in the future. That's for sure. Because if you have the long Halloween, you need to put right next to it the last Halloween, right? That's how it goes. But anyways, the last book I want to talk about this week is also recommendation slash update. I mentioned last week about like, and I've and one of the main things I put on my last videos is like what happened with Imperial. So this week we are already in Imperial number 4, and it has been moving quite slow. It has been moving quite slow, and I've read all the tie-ins. The most interesting one for me has been the whole quest with Nova and Star-Lord. I said that I wanted to check on the story of Charles Xavier and Lilandra going for their daughter, but that has been like the slowest one. So by number 4, we already know that the Inhumans are back. The Inhumans are somehow behind everything. But I'm really hoping that in 4, well, you can even see in the cover, you know. I hope we see in 4 more of the plot coming undone, right? Because the whole point at the beginning is like, okay, who killed all of these people? Like, who initiated the war? After everybody thought that was Wakanda. Now we know it's the Inhumans. Spoilers. We know it's the Inhumans, so move along. You know, make it faster, make it more interesting. Because now we know that the Inhumans are part of it, like all of the other tie-ins are sort of forced to move a little bit faster. We already know the big reveal. Now we want to know the big how. You know what I'm saying? So this little update about Imperial that remains a really interesting event, but it has been dwarfed by DC's KO for me. Like dwarfed. I don't think it was so properly managed. I think it has gone way too unnoticed. and the big twist happened way too soon, which made all of the tie-ins a little bit less interesting. But still, they promise us a change in the status quo of Marvel's, what was the name? Galactic Galaxy. I don't know, but like all of the factions and heroes from Marvel that reside in space, they were gonna change that. That was the whole deal. But anyways, that is my last recommendation for this week. Not like a much like big blockbuster things to look out for, but man, that's the world of comics. I am not even up to date, but it has been an interesting year. Now I'm sort of like reaching the end of the year part of thing. I used to talk about like my favorite stuff from the year before. I might bring it back, but at least the big Marvel DC thing, which is our bread and butter, mine and I guess most of the people. But like when I have a bunch of things from previous weeks, I'm looking at my list, a bunch of things that I haven't read, including Something is Killing the Children and Marian Heretic, which was one of my recommendations. So I need to get into it. But anyways, that's another week of comic books. We gotta keep getting step by step closer to that dreaded end of the year. So I hope that for as shitty that is, I hope that comic books give us like a good release, like a hit of feel good drugs by the end of the year with all the things they have been doing. But anyways, that's it for me. See you all next week. Hope you all keep reading, or else it's your ass. See you all next week. Bye bye.